Larry Bennett of Bennett Motors is a local businessman who has been a philanthropist for the tri-state community for a number of years. Mr. Bennett grew up with next to nothing and has spent most of his life working 70 hours a week to get where he is today. He realizes that the community has made him what he is today and feels that giving back, whether it be in form of police liaison vehicles or supporting and sponsoring community events. Simply put, Mr. Bennett believes in paying it forward. That belief led him to his most recent endeavor, the creation of the Dream Car Museum. With Southern Indiana residents not having any place close to view or learn about automobiles, Mr. Bennett set out to make a one-of-a-kind, world-class destination in Evansville, Indiana, where people can see up-close dream cars like the Lamborghini Diablo, Rolls-Royce, or a Lotus, just to name a few. The best part is, Mr. Bennett has made it free for all to visit. Today we are here at the Dream Car Museum in Evansville, Indiana with Jason Elstock, the Dream Car Museum Curator. Thank you for meeting with us today.
Thanks, Adriana.
Okay, so what made you all build this museum?
We started acquiring a few cars. Larry did, a few exotic cars, a Lamborghini, Gallardo, and a Rolls-Royce Ghost, and a couple other cars as well. And as we started getting a few cars, we were wondering where we were going to park them all. And we had this big building here, as you see, that used to be an old service shop. And we're like, hey, we're not using that for anything. You know, we'll keep them in there. But then when we pulled them in here, we were like, you know what? This is kind of cool. We could probably get a few more things in here and dress it up some and try to turn it into a museum. So from what kind of started as a little idea became, as you see, a pretty big thing.
So how did you get all of this collection we see here today?
Traveling, crawling through barns. If you've ever seen American Pickers, Larry and I have crawled through a few people's barns getting some signs. We go to a lot of the Mecum auctions as well. They have really good cars, and we've been pretty successful as far as getting cars from there as well. And a lot of times we do a lot of internet searching as well. Google saves our lives as far as cars. And then the auctions, a lot of times that we go to, and the reason we like buying auctions is a lot of the certificates and stuff that are needed to build the value of the car and make the car what it is. They have, and they've done their research. So we'll get online and we'll see what auctions they have coming up, see what cars they have, do a lot of research on the cars. And then, to be honest with you, we really try to think back of different cars people have talked about when they were in here. And, you know, cars that kind of pull memories back from their younger days. And with that, that's when we really start searching, because we're here every day, and this isn't for us, this is for the community. So we want to bring what the community likes, you know, into the museum. So we really try to research what everybody around here and all that is into, so we can try to bring some of it to the museum.
Now, talking about the cars, do all the cars still run? All
the cars still run except for just one, and that is the barn find, which, as you've seen, is a really old car that was lost in a barn for 40 years. But other than that, yes, all of our cars run and drive. We kind of try to keep them circulated a little bit, because the more you let them sit, the harder it actually is on a car. So one of my fun jobs is I get to drive them a little bit and have a little bit of fun every now and then. So,
speaking about people loving cars, what's your favorite car?
My favorite car? Oh, the 96 Lamborghini Diablo that's right behind us. I had that car hanging on my wall my entire childhood. I think my mom tore it down at some point in time when I was in college. So to have that car in the museum now is really my dream come true.
And how did you get involved with the cars?
Oh, my dad. My dad grew up telling us stories about cars that he had either owned or, you know, really cool cars from back in the day, because we didn't get to grow up in the muscle car age, you know. Our parents really got to experience that. And I'll never forget when cars would drive by that were older cars, my dad would just sit there and talk about that car and who made that car and why that car was cool and what motors they had in that car and what trim styles they had in that car and everything. So it's really been ingrained in me, and I think it really led me towards the automotive, you know, field anyways. And then when Larry and I got together and started doing this museum and all, it really fired back up my passion for cars, as you can see.
When you typically think of museum, you think about historical, older things. What made you do like a kind of a new car, dream cars that we see today in movies or riding past the street?
What we did a lot of thinking about it. And what it was is like we have them on an older Model A and a Model T, okay? But most of the folks that grew up in that era are, you know, past their years and everything as well. So not as many folks connect with that. They start connecting back you know, in some of the, you know, like 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, during the muscle car age. And that's kind of the generation of like memories that are starting back when guys got their license and all that. So we wanted to do something that really appealed to the folks that we thought would come through here on an everyday basis at any age group whatsoever. So we got a Model A and a Model T, but then we started, you know, like with the mid-50s Chevys, and then up, you know, got like the 70s Chevelle. And then to adhere to the kids, you know, because you guys, most of you guys aren't worried about no Chevelles or old 57 Chevys. You guys are Lambos and, you know, Bentleys and this and that and the other, which I've seen your face when you got in the Bentley the other day. So that's really why we wanted to do it, because we wanted anybody who walked through here to be able to connect with what they were seeing, no matter what they were looking at.
What kind of cars do you offer? Like, if when we viewed your museum, we see that you have famous cars and older cars. Tell us about the famous cars.
Famous cars, we have the vehicle that Vin Diesel drove, the 70 Charger from Fast and Furious, that he actually flipped in the final scene with Paul Walker. Actually, the guy who had it lives in Indianapolis. This guy went and purchased almost every Fast and the Furious car he could and all the memorabilia. So this guy has a collection amongst no others. And then when we purchased that vehicle, it was actually part of the whole package with it. The semi that he hits, I still have pieces of the green semi in the back of the car that he hit. So he actually provided us with a bunch of stuff because he knew what we were doing, and he really wanted to help us present the car well. So he's helped us out pretty good.
There's also a lot of memorabilia. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Things a lot of folks have forgotten is the gas stations and stuff used to be a huge industry. That used to be your one-stop shop. You know, you go there, they check your oil, brake, they'll do everything right there when you're filling up your tank. And a lot of that stuff has gained a lot of sentimental value to folks. Oh man, I remember when gas pumps were this and that. So that's why we've tried to do, you know, like get a lot of neons and gas pumps and porcelain signs, because all that stuff's really old and vintage. And it draws people a lot back to their days of, you know, when they remember when they were younger and mom and dad were pulling up to the gas station and stuff.
Besides the cars and the memorabilia, what else do you guys have to offer here?
We got a few vintage motorcycles as well. We still have a few that we're going to unveil. We've got a lot of different, I don't want to call them props, but maybe that's the best word, that were used back in the day, such as like barber poles, or, you know, some old vintage signs and advertisement stuffs that they used to use as well. We've got some old, we're getting ready to unveil some old pinball machines here before too long, and like a bunch of your old cranes and stuff as well, that from the 20s and 30s. So we've got quite a bit. It's hard to list it all. People are gonna have to come check it out.
And then I also noticed that the museum is broken up into different kind of areas that you can see. Can you explain that for me, please?
Yeah, what we want to do is, just like with the cars that we presented, we really wanted to try to give something for everybody. You know, that way if the husband come in and wanted to look at the Chevelle all day, the wife may not want to look at the Chevelle all day, but she may love the neons or the mannequins or stuff. So what we did was we tried to create a theme throughout the museum in each room. And, you know, as you've seen, we have our diner room that's got a bunch of old vintage diner-esque type stuff in it. And then we have our parts room, which has got some older, like an older parts room would be set up. And then, of course, you've seen the Corvette room, which is, you know, just a classic display of vintage Corvettes. And then we have an engine room, because cars are nothing without engines. So we've got a few different engines on display and a few different things going on. We really just wanted to try to adhere to everybody that we could, and not just give them one thing to look at, because cars are still cars at the end of the day. They can get boring after a little while. So the more stuff that we have to look, the more that they can enjoy.
Speaking of that, can you tell me, why is this your dream job?
I just couldn't imagine doing anything funner for myself. As much as I love cars and going out and meeting new people and doing new things, this museum's opened up all those doors for me. You know, I've traveled the country to buy some of these cars, traveled the country to buy signs and gas pumps, and gotten to meet a bunch of people and made a lot of connections, you know, throughout the United States. And my dad always told me, if you go to work every day and you love your job, then you've never worked a day in your life. As far as I'm concerned, I don't work a day in my life. So it's about the best job a guy could ever have. I mean, Larry and I are as best buddies could get. And, you know, traveling around the country, buying old cars and signs and neons, just doesn't get a whole lot better than that.
Thank you for inviting me to the museum. Thank you for your time also.
No problem, Adriana. Thanks for coming.
For Bosse's EVSC Community Link at the Dream Car Museum in Evansville, Indiana, I'm Adriana. Thank you.